After graduating from the University of Texas, her plan was to get married, settle down, and raise a family. However, now this was, I didn't have these notes, I kind of put them together. However, when the time came, there were no prospects in sight. How would you not want to marry this gorgeous gal right here? But she was so darn picky that she just decided to go to Plan B since she didn't have a husband at that time and the kids that she has today. She went to Plan B with law school. And we can be all thankful that Prince Charming didn't show up exactly at that time because we have all benefited from her great career. Her first job was a legal and political reporter for a Houston television station. Then in 1972, Houston voters elected her to the Texas House of Representatives. Later, Texas voters elected her state treasurer. And I remember touring the state with she and Ray and others on getting involved in the politics of winning votes in the state of Texas. And it was fun being part of her life. And in 1993, she became the first woman and today the only woman elected to represent Texas in the U.S. Senate. Much of her focus, and the reason I mention this is because it goes to the military, because there's so many other great things in her life. But much of the focus instead has been making life as good as we can make it for our military, ensuring that our veterans get the services they need. And I tell you, that's a battle. And Kay's in the middle of that battle, and there's things that we've talked about that needed to get done, and the private sector is doing a lot of things now too. And but our Texas military bases they're some of the best in the nation. In addition, she has worked to bring more research dollars to higher education and shore upgrades to K-12 so that America can more effectively compete internationally. She has devoted efforts to immigration reform, to making healthcare more accessible to more people, and to making social security secure. In addition to being a U.S. Senator in the national spotlight, she has the added responsibilities of being a working mom. Kay and her husband Ray are the parents of two 7-year-olds with very demanding schedules of their own. And that's not all. She is author of 3 books. Her most recent bestseller is entitled Leading Ladies, American Trailblazers. She's also written How Texas Beat Navy in the '64 Cotton Bowl. And I can think of no better way to introduce our speaker than by the title of her book, Ladies and Gentlemen, the Leading Lady of Texas and an American Trailblazer in every sense of the word, our Senator from the great state of Texas, the Honorable Kay Bailey Hutchison.
Thank you so much. I can't imagine anyone that I respect more or like more to be able to have introduced me than my friend Roger Staubach. I will say that our friendship only started probably 20 years ago because he does hold grudges. And the way that we came to this is that I went to ask for his support in a political campaign. And he fortunately said yes before I was walking out the door of his office, and I said, oh, by the way, I was a cheerleader in the Cotton Bowl of 1964. I thought he was going to replay the whole game. Every bad call, every error that was made. But, you should count Jan as your really good friend, Roger, because he talked about all the accolades and he never mentioned the Cotton Bowl of 1964. So you should thank him for that. And, I have to say I was at West Point where I chaired the Board of Visitors last week, and the whole campus, everything says Beat Navy. Everything says Beat Navy. I mean, they really do drum it in up there, so you're right about that. Let me just say, first of all, how wonderful it is to be in this great museum that I love so much and to honor our veterans who have done so much for our country. It is so fitting for the Rotary Club, this great club that I love and once belonged to be able to take this day and say we're going to set it aside to honor the people who have done so much for our country. I'm very proud of Texas' contribution to our military. We have 225,000 active duty civilian, guard, and reserve service members in Texas, the most of any state. That is despite the fact that California has 1/3 more people than we do. I am so inspired by the stories of our heroes. Like we heard this morning, we heard the stories of the heroes that we are especially honoring today, World War II. During the height of the Cold War, President Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstreams. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day, we could spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free." We have to remain dedicated, because all of you who stood up during the songs of your service, we have to make sure that as we stand on your shoulders, that we never, ever, ever stop passing to the next generation the zeal for freedom. And by honoring our veterans, we take one step in that direction. Abraham Lincoln said it best, "A grateful nation must care for him who shall have borne the battle." We are doing everything we know in the United States Congress now to provide for our veterans. We are providing more for mental health care treatment, including $319 million for treatment of post-traumatic stress syndrome. We are doing more for prosthetics, because those are the injuries that we are seeing from the war that we are in right now. Looking ahead, we must expand the VA's reach to meet the needs of Texas veterans and address the changing needs of our youngest veterans from the war on terror. That means educational opportunities. We have just passed the most comprehensive revision of the GI Bill to assure that our veterans who serve and leave the military have the opportunity to fulfill their education and to rehabilitate those who have been injured. That is our commitment and our promise from America. I want to tell a story because USO is ever present here in our community, and I see Jeff Fagan here, the head of DFW Airport. And DFW, of course, is one of the centers where our Iraqi and Afghan war veterans come back through and have their 2 weeks R&R. And DFW is one of the airports that is the place where the planes come and then they get on planes to go to their homes or wherever they want to go. And so Jeff Fagan, to his great credit, did so much to give our returning service members amenities and goodie bags and a place for them to be with their loved ones. He did so much. But many people were saying to Jeff, you know, we need a USO in DFW. We need a USO. And Jeff said, well, we do so much already. And I talked to him myself. He remembers this conversation. And I said, you know, we do. And we do a great job. But the USO has a special feel for what our people in the services want, what they're looking for, what they need. And the service members feel that warmth, they feel that connection with so many of the USO volunteers because so many of them are former service members.